Hi, my name is Mary, and today we're going to talk about invisible lifted increases. These are a great increase method that blend really well into your fabric and don't make a hole the way that some other increases do. To do them, you're essentially lifting a new stitch from one side of an already worked stitch in the neighboring column and slipping the top stitch from that column you're lifting from. So I'm going to show you first how to make a right leaning invisible lifted increase. You'll work to where your increase will be. And then use the tip of your right needle to pick up the right leg of the stitch below the first stitch on the left needle from back to front. So this is the maneuver you'll make like this. And then lift this stitch up onto the left needle. You'll knit into that lifted stitch and then slip the original stitch purlwise from the left to the right needle with the yarn held in the back. For a left leaning invisible lifted increase, you'll work to one stitch before where the increase will be, then slip the next stitch purlwise with the yarn held in back and use your left needle tip to lift the left leg of the stitch below the stitch you just slipped from back to front. So again, I'll show you that motion again. I'm going to lift the left leg and then knit the lifted stitch through the back loop. So it's already on the left needle, but we don't want it to be twisted. See how it's mounted backwards. So we're going to knit it through the back loop. That's the increase done. So here's what those increases look like on your needle after you've worked them. Invisible purled lifted increases are worked similarly, just purling the stitch you're lifting. I'll show you these first on the right side and then on the wrong side. So for a right leaning invisible purled lifted increase, you'll work to where the increase will be. Bring your yarn to the front and then use your right needle again to lift the right leg of the stitch below the first stitch on the left needle onto the left needle, then purl it. And then here, since we're on the right side working stockinette, we're going to put our yarn back to the back and then slip the next stitch. And then for a left leaning invisible purled increase, you'll work to one stitch before where the increase will be, slip the next stitch here purlwise with the yarn in back since we're on the right side, then bring the yarn to the front and use your left needle to lift the left leg of the stitch below that stitch you just slipped onto the left needle and then purl it through the back loop so that it doesn't get twisted. So there's that purled lifted increase. And I'll show you that on the wrong side as well. So now I'm here on the wrong side and I'm going to show you what the purled lifted increase looks like worked into a purl stitch. And this also kind of applies to if you're knitting an increase into a purl stitch. So since you can't really see the legs of the stitches on this side, you're going to want to stick your needle into the top of the loop here, so this little purl bump, and then to the side of the stitch from which you're lifting. So here I'm going to do a right lifted increase and then place it onto the left needle. And you want to pay attention to stitch mount here too, that's pretty important. If the leading leg of the stitch is to the back of the needle like it is here, you'll need to work it through the back loop. Likewise, if it's to the front of the needle, you can work it through the front. So here, I'm going to purl this through the back loop and then slip this stitch. And here, since we're on the wrong side, I'm going to leave the yarn to the front and then work to one stitch before where I want my left leaning increase to be. Slip that stitch with the yarn in the front and then again go into the top of that purl bump. And since the leading leg of that top of the purl bump is to the front, I'm going to go ahead and purl it through that front loop. So I'll show you after the end of this row. It looks pretty identical to the knitwise increases we did on the right side since we did these purlwise. So here we have our invisible increases. Here's the ones that we purled on the right side, and then the ones we just made purled on the wrong side. You can see the columns just kind of branch out from each other in a really nice way. There you have it. Go forth and increase invisibly. Happy knitting.